The last place I wanted to be was Frostnipistan.
This One's Wife. Netflix deal dead. How does it feel? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You will be well aware that This One's Wife and Harry's deal with Netflix is not going to be renewed. This is substantial news. Let's just take a quick walk through some of the headlines that herald this. This One's Wife and Prince Harry's $100 million Netflix deal will not be reviewed, says People. Netflix leaves This One's Wife hanging over contract renewal, the Daily Beast. Looks like Harry and This One's Wife's Netflix deal is ending, The Cut. Why This One's Wife and Prince Harry's Netflix deal is not being reviewed, L. This One's Wife's Netflix contract yet to be renewed as critically panned show leaves bosses worried, Yahoo. Harry and This One's Wife reportedly lose Netflix deal. Here's what happens to With Love Meghan, Forbes. Harry and This One's Wife's Netflix deal is dead. Bosses are just waiting for the credits to roll on $100 million contract with no appetite for anything new, Daily Mail. This One's Wife and Prince Harry's $100 million Netflix contract will not be renewed, Suggest. The reason This One's Wife and Prince Harry's Netflix deal is not being renewed, Ola. Netflix shuts the door on This One's Wife deal. No renewal in sight, Netflix Junkie. Prince Harry and This One's Wife's Netflix blow as bosses have no appetite for anything new, The Mirror. This One's Wife's Netflix deal dead with no renewal possibility, Reality T. This One's Wife and Prince Harry will not renew $100 million Netflix deal after 3 shows, Us Weekly. What's next for Prince Harry and This One's Wife when their $100 million Netflix deal ends, Star Magazine. And there's plenty more besides. All of these headlines. Thus, the deal is dead and isn't going to be renewed. One of the biggest advantages that you have by being a very sensible viewer of my work is that you get to understand the mind of This One's Wife as a narcissist like nobody else can tell you. This is as a consequence of my unrivaled expertise in putting the mind of the narcissist into terms that are easily understandable, easily digestible, to enable you to realize how she feels, how she thinks, why she does as she does. No other commentator is able to provide you with that level of insight, merging the world of this celebrity and narcissism. And therefore, my thanks for continuing to watch my work, and applaud it for you to continue to be educated in such a fine way. But what of This One's Wife? The deal is not to be renewed, and presumably Ted Sarandos himself, or perhaps more likely a flunky, was sent to give that news to This One's Wife. That conveyance of the news will undoubtedly have presented a significant threat to control. Why? Well, it will have been challenge fuel, because she will have been told, thanks very much, we enjoyed working with you, but we don't see that there is a necessity of renewing the deal. Door might be open to other one-off projects or a first look arrangement, etc., yada, 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 throwing them a bit of a bone in respect of the potential for future work. And therefore, that will provide This One's Wife with some fuel. But it's a threat to control because they're not renewing. And in her mind, they ought to renew because she's brilliant and special and fantastic at content creation. Thus, she experiences that threat to control. But as ever, the problem for This One's Wife is that, unlike you, who might be delivered some bad news of that nature, I'm sorry, we're not going to renew your contract here at Handy Spanks Incorporated, the world doesn't get to know about it because you're just a member of the public, and that you don't go chasing clout through shitty Instagram posts in the way that This One's Wife does, and you've not been oversaturated across the worldwide media. This One's Wife faces the initial threat to control of being told that there's going to be no renewal, and then, as ever, there is the amplification that takes place. The various headlines that I've just read to you all are repeated instances of challenge fuel. She's being spoken about, so that's good, but they're repeated threats to her control as bang, 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 bang. Each headline lands, and believe me, she goes and looks, because she has the time and also the inclination, as a consequence of the style of her narcissism, to find out what is being said and written about her. Certain narcissists are far too busy to even look, less so care about what is said about them. But this one's wife both has the time, the inclination, and it gets to her. It really does. But what will her reaction be? Well, initially, the starting point would be, how could you do this to me? Remember, when there is this threat to control, her narcissism immediately jumps in to defend her because it is a self-defense mechanism. What it won't do is allow this to happen. Yes, I can see why you've not renewed. I'm lazy. I lack charisma. I'm largely unpopular these days. My shows have been laughably rubbish. I've been slow to produce content. The viewing figures are not particularly good. You're in the business of getting good viewing figures and getting an excellent return on your investment. I fully understand why you're not renewing with me. I'm disappointed, but I get it. That is never going to happen. There'll be some people that might admit that privately, but not publicly, who are not narcissists, maintaining that they ought to have received a renewal, but deep down they know the reason why and they accept it. Not this one's wife. She is pathologically incapable of that self-reflection and the acceptance that anything could be her fault. Accordingly, her narcissism doesn't allow her that insight and immediately jumps to her defense by stating, how could you do this to me? I'm the amazing this one's wife. I'm talented and special, and I'm the most bullied person on the internet, and you're now just picking on me, and it's really mean, and I'm going to drop to the floor now and sob, one tear left eye go. The victim mentality will come to the fore, telling her they're being awful towards you. You don't deserve this. After everything that you've done for them, after all of the brilliant content that you created. Yes, she's that deluded and that much of a victim. Nobody's asking me if I'm okay, she howls into the ether. Then comes the witch hunt, the post-mortem. Her narcissism tells her, you didn't do anything wrong, but you've been stitched up. You've been let down. It was Harry. He was spliffed out of his brains most of the time. That's why not enough content was created. It wasn't marketed properly. Netflix were at fault. They didn't do enough to counter the haters' narrative. They didn't roll out an impressive marketing and advertising campaign for We'd Love Meghan. That's why it didn't get the viewing figures. Nothing to do with what you did, this one's wife. You were brilliant. You were amazing. Darling, you were wonderful. It's Netflix. They weren't properly invested. Perhaps we should look at suing them. Call the lawyers. It's also the public. They just didn't get it because so many of them are idiots. They're haters. They're racists. They're misogynists. They don't understand what goes into all of this. They don't understand how hard I work, putting 1 hour a week into all of my endeavours. Accordingly, the blame shifting will occur, whereby she did nothing wrong, but the reason that it wasn't renewed wasn't her fault. It was the fault of Harry, or of Netflix, or of the marketing advisor, or of her chief of communications, or of the cleaner, or of the man in the moon. Then comes defiance. Well, who out there managed to secure a $100 million Netflix deal in the first place? Puh, not many of them, but I did, because I'm amazing. And anyway, I don't need Netflix. There are plenty of people beating a path to my door who want to sign me up. There's that guy that operates out of that garage in Naples, in Florida. He wants to sign me up. I'm sure we'll do great things together. I'm going to go and suck dick of Bob of Paramount. He's bound to give me a juicy deal. And thus, the delusion then kicks in, whereby she believes that not only is she so special to have got the deal in the first place, which sets her above all of her critics, who are they to question me when I landed that deal in the first place? They are nobodies. But then there is the magical thinking that something will land in her lap anyway, because after all, she is the world's most brilliant content creator. And it's only a matter of time before some other streamer, some other producer, some other publisher comes beating a path to her door, offering big bucks and a juicy contract. The fact is, it has an impact upon her. It causes her heated, ignited fury to rise. And she shifts through the how could you do this to me victim mentality, moving to the inquisition as to who is at fault, then shifting through to defiance, and then in effect dusting herself down and saying, well, I'm going to succeed anyway. And understand, it infuriates her that this deal has not been renewed, and it really gets to her all of the publication of the knowledge that she's not getting this deal. But this also is why so many narcissists show bounce back ability, that they continue, that you think, surely they must realize by now, or she should realize by now, she's fucking useless. Yet look at her. She's still going on as if she's going to get a new deal. It's astonishing. And that's the power of not yet, but delusion. And sometimes it does work in the narcissist's favor, because rather than shrink away, they keep going and they harangue and they grind down individuals. So they just go, okay, just leave me alone. Stop ringing. We'll do something with you. You can have a deal. Thank you very much. Says the narcissist. Job done. And thus for this one's wife, it is a significant and tremendous blow that the Netflix contract has not been renewed. And it will cause all manner of different responses as she shifts through those different stages. But it's all driven once again by her narcissism. And she will jettison the issue and just declare that it's other people's fault to nullify that threat to control, and then look to the future in the expectation of essentially duping someone else, although of course she doesn't see it as that. She may well grift her way, probably not on the same scale, because too many people are wise to how shit and unpopular she is. But there's always some sucker that can be taken advantage of. And there's always someone deluded enough to think we can make her work. Which is why narcissists such as this one's wife don't necessarily disappear overnight, but it's more of a slow downward spiral. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.